These are the best days of our lives. Let's raise your glasses high. This one's for you tonight.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 19 of the SUR Files here. I am recording this on a Thursday night, but you guys are listening to this on July 24th, 2026. It is your truly the nefarious one, Brother Adam, a.k.a. Joshie Lopez, coming to you from the great city of Chicago. Crazy to think that we're about to have 20 episodes of the SUR Files. I'm in a very introspective mood today. I just can't begin to express how awesome and humbling and gratifying this past week has been for this project and this concept and this podcast especially. I have to say that last week is the most successful week that this project and this podcast has had since I started it. I can't even look at my phone without just getting constant notifications from the TikTok page, and I know that's where most of you guys know of us, and it's no shame about it. We're slowly growing and building with this podcast. Hopefully that momentum and listenership will fall through into YouTube. I see the numbers that we get on the audio version when we share the podcast on Spotify and stuff, and that's going very well. So I appreciate you guys checking out the podcast when you can. But the TikTok page is really, really blowing up for us right now, and I can't thank you all enough for how just tremendous and the feedback that you guys send my way, the numbers that we get, especially on TikTok, the fact that we are over 1 million likes now, the fact that we got over 10,000 followers, now we're close to 13,000 followers, not even just in a week span. And I don't know how to express my gratitude enough. Like, there was a big part of me that considered taking a step back from content creation, at least from the audio space. My real life job right now is to make transcripts for professional wrestling shows, and that's what I still do to this day. And I still love wrestling, and it's a deep passion of mine. But I know that I wanted to try something different in my life, and I wanted to venture into something different. And I knew that if I took a chance on something like this, a straight male guy venturing into the world of Bravo, I could just have fun talking about it in a different lens and not have to talk about and format the show and talk about, oh, the writers did this wrong and this was booked this and this is booked that, and the nature of general professional wrestling talk in 2026 is just so nauseating. You'll listen to a wrestling podcast in 2026 and you ask yourself, why does anybody watch professional wrestling when people who claim to be analysts and experts just shit on it the entire time? Now, don't get me wrong. My co-host, Matt McCool, he's been very busy, and he's expressed to me that he wants to come on more shows, and he apologizes to you guys for the fact that he hasn't been able to. Life gets in the way, and it's no harm in that at all. I completely understand his situation, and it was awesome when we got to get this project off the ground. And Matt is always welcome to be as part of the SUR Files, because honestly, without Matt, I'm not in this field. So I want to start off this podcast this week by giving him a shout out, because he is the one that really introduced me to the world of Bravo. And I, with being a straight guy, and like I kind of scoff at certain things. Now, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed my soap operas growing up as a kid with my nanny, and I watched like General Hospital and All My Children, and like Rebecca Hurst was one of my big time crushes, and then I forgot her last name, but one of the girls that started, her name's Carly, the actress. I think she was in General Hospital, but anyways, that's neither here there. But like, don't get me wrong, I as a straight guy, I have enjoyed soap operas. I'll enjoy a romantic movie, or people say chick flick here and there. But due to my ignorance, I never gave Bravo a chance. And until I stumbled upon Love Island and seeing Ariana Max for the first time and getting to know her story, that's where I found Vanderpump Rules. And then the only time I ever watched Vanderpump Rules live as it was happening was the final episode of season 11 before the reunion. And lo and behold, it happened on my 30th birthday, May 7th, 2024. Not only that, to think about it, scrolling back, as I wrote in the audiobook that I wrote about Scandival, which you can check out on our YouTube channel. By the way, cheap plug here, make sure to hit the like button and smash the subscribe button on our YouTube page at the SUR Files. And let me know in the comment section down below how you guys felt about this week's episode of The Valley, by the way. But in our archives, you'll find the audiobook that I spent over 3 months making. And I wrote a story about Scandival from my lens and kind of looking at it from a 30-degree view, and also looking from a human element and also from a mental health element. That's the approach I want to tackle that story. But going back to what I was going to say, basically, is that the same day that the news of Scandival started was the same day that I lost my job. And at a time when I was really hitting at a rock bottom part of my confidence. And I believe things are full circle. And I do think that things happen for a reason. And here I am in 2026. I've just had a big setback where I wasn't able to fully see through my move to Florida the way I wanted to. Now I'm back home in Chicago. So I'm dealing with another big gut punch internally, professionally, and personally. And at the same time, I'm back now. I'm doing a podcast about a show it's a spinoff of Vanderpump Rules called The Valley, and I never had the opportunity to cover Vanderpump Rules as it was happening. You know, I went back to watch the entire franchise right after that season 11 reunion was over with, and again to have this opportunity to cover The Valley this season, it's just been so awesome. And I know there's been a lot of criticism, and justifiably so, with a lot of the main talking points that's been displayed throughout the season. But for myself, being a freshly new Bravo content creator, I am just more than elated with the experience that I've been feeling within myself as a content creator, having this opportunity to cover a reality TV show in real time. And I'm excited to continue that with House of Saucy, which starts on July 29th, which is going to be a week. It's going to be Wednesday, July 20th. July 29th, it'll be dropping on Freeform, and then the next day, next Thursday, it'll be all available on Hulu. So next Thursday, the 30th, you can get all the new episodes of House of Saucy. Now, mind you, I'm going to take my time with this, with covering House of Saucy. The trailer is out already. I shared it on the page if you guys want to check it out at SUR Files on TikTok. And with it being a full-out release, I want to take my time and cover it properly, just like I do with The Valley. And I want to give my time to digest each episode. It's going to be a little different for other people. People are going to binge watch it and do what they do. And I understand that, but we have a podcast here, and I want to make sure that I have new content for you guys, for the podcast every week. Before we get into the new deep dive of me doing my full rewatch of Vanderpump Rules all the way from the first episode, we're going to do that. I just don't know when. But at the same time, I wanted to sit here and reflect on the fact that this season of covering The Valley and everything that is done for the podcast and the TikTok page has really, really meant a lot to me. And you know, I have my times where I get very critical of certain cast members, and I had to have the disclaimer here that I'm only going off of what I see on the TV show. I'm also reminded of the fact that these are real human beings, and none nothing that I say on this podcast or my initial reviews that I do on TikTok after the show goes off the air. Nothing you hear that, nothing that you hear in those reviews is me like condemning or making grandstanding conclusions on who people are as human beings. You know, that's not how I roll. I will call out bullshit. I will call out double standards, but you're not going to catch me coming on here saying that, like, Lala can't go F herself or, you know, things like that, or she's a terrible person just because I don't like the pot stirring and the instigating that she's been doing on the season. You know, I believe that two things can be true. I don't think that Daniel Bucco should be canceled and it's the scum of the earth. But at the same time, I don't agree with the way he speaks to his wife and the way he speaks to people when he's drunk and the way he's conducted himself this season is not good and it's not acceptable. At the same time, I don't think somebody like him needs to be crucified. He needs to have the opportunity to grow and learn from his mistakes. And obviously, I, just like all of you who watch The Valley every single week, are curious to hear about, you know, where's his head at? Is he finally realizing and seeing it for himself, watching the show back and how he carries himself? And all the drinking stuff to the side, because I like all of you, I'm sick of talking about it on the podcast every week. I'm sick of hearing about it on the show every week. The fact, we're going to get to the review of The Valley this week, but the fact that we needed 3 different separate conversations with Lala talking about this whole Danny and Nia situation, you would think that this is how bad and how high school this whole situation's got. You would think that Lala was the one that was the main victim of this whole situation, not Janet, not Jasmine. She's been talking about it so much, and it goes back to what I've been saying this whole season. Lala's whole storyline this season is not her reclaiming her ground with the fans of the show. We're not getting an update of where her life was and her mental struggles that she was dealing coming out of Vanderpump Rules. You know, I would have loved to hear that. Like I said here on the show, I would love to see where her mind's at, you know, bringing Sosa into the world. Obviously, there's a different situation where she can't talk about Ocean and all that, and that's unfortunate. But I wanted to know about where Lala was at in her life. We got a brief snippet about it with the unfortunate passing of her dog and the 7-year sobriety journey, which is awesome. But outside of that, all we got from Lala is like, all right, my friend Janet can do no wrong. We both got cooked at a reunion, and that's all I'm going to talk about this whole season. And even in confessionals this week, she's like, oh, Kristen doesn't realize that she threw her friends under the bus, but that's just teeing us up for what we really want, and we're going to gossip, and we're going to discuss. You're pushing 35. It's time to grow the fuck up. Like, that's as far I'm going to go as far as criticism is concerned. People have to be called out for their double standards and hypocrisies, and she has this exterior that she carries herself on all the after shows. And she did the same thing on VPR, where she acts like her shit don't stink and all these things, and it's just like I wonder if she watched herself back and listens to the words that come out of her mouth, because she's always the first person to be like, oh, this person's living in the comment section. This person's living in the comment section. It's very rich from the person who actually lives in the comment section the most, and that would be Lala. So, and that's just the unfortunate thing. I wanted to enjoy Lala this season. I was one of the people that are defending Lala, and I also have stated on the record on this podcast that I agreed with her stance and how she handled things at that season 11 reunion, because she was speaking from her in her own heart and she was speaking from her perspective. Now, do I think that she finds herself in situations where she comes off like a hypocrite and, you know, practices in double standards and instigating? Absolutely. But I do like Lala Kent, the person. I enjoy her podcast. I think she's funny. She's probably a good person to hang out with. I think in general, I think Lala at her heart is a good human being, but she finds herself trapped with her ego where she needs to, like, she thrives off the talking shit element and having that exterior of, like, my shit don't stink. It's a facade. It's a front. There is a sweet version of Lala, but obviously we know that she's egging it on for producers and for the television. And yeah, I get it, it's a reality TV show. You want to make it interesting and things like that. I just don't like the double standards. And for you to be like, oh, you live in the comment section and blah 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 blah, and it's just really annoying. So, moral of the story here is I wrap up the monologue this week is that I know that the Valley's season finale is coming up next Wednesday, and kind of makes me sad, but we got a 3-part reunion which is coming up, and then after that we'll figure out what's going to go on with this whole Jax Taylor situation, whether they're going to be filming a special. I know the Hollywood Reporter last week said that they're picking up cameras to document this whole situation with Jackson, his publicist Lori, and Brittany and everything. And I just hope it's nothing too dark or just uncomfortable, because Brittany's gone through it enough. But all that being said, I know that they hyped up this big season finale. That's this big Halloween party that's happening at Brittany's house, and it got very toxic. And apparently, because I recall certain things from BravoCon, just because that BravoCon wasn't that far off from that Halloween party. I think it wasn't even like 2 or 3 weeks later, if I'm not mistaken, because they wrapped filming, and then 3 weeks later was BravoCon. So I think at that time we'll figure out, because I think the rumor that was going around was that somebody threw a drink at somebody at the party. I'm curious to see how all this plays out. We saw little sneak previews of it, of the finale, in the mid-season trailer, and where things are getting really tense, and Brittany's starting to be being called out for her double standards and her talking shit behind Nia's back, and then pretending that she likes her in person. So I'm really excited for that argument, because Brittany has not carried herself in a good way this season, outside the stuff with her and Cruz. But there's a lot to discuss, and it's just a little bummer, and I'm just in a reflective mood, just knowing the fact that the Valley's third season is coming to an end very soon. But all that being said, again, I want to thank you all for the support. As always, make sure to hit the like button and smash the subscribe button on YouTube. Don't forget the home of the SUR Files is Odyssey, but you also can get the podcast anywhere you get your podcasts from. Just type in the SUR Files in your Google search engine. It's free of charge, and it'll be right in your platform and device of your choosing. And I appreciate the support. And so, if you guys want to hit me up, I'm on X at the Hoots Podcast, Instagram Joshie Lopez Music, and Instagram we are at the SUR Files, and YouTube, like I said, at SUR Files, and then YouTube's at the SUR Files, and then TikTok is just SUR Files, SUR Files. Anyways, on that note, let's get to this week's edition of The Valley, Season 3, Episode 17, Guilt Tripping. That is the episode that we're covering today. Let me know in the comment section down below how you felt about this episode of The Valley. And we're going to start our Valley review in 3, 2, 1. All right, folks. It's time to cover The Valley Season 3, Episode 16. This episode was called Guilt Tripping. I don't know if I would call this episode Guilt Tripping or just the continuation of the school of Lala instigating, or the Lala Kent school of instigating in Potster, because there was like at least 3 or 4 conversations amongst this episode in a 42-minute span of Lala leading the charge and talking about Danny and Nia. And I think on the surface level, you could look at what's gone on this season. You could say, like, come on, Joshie. Lauren is just looking out for Janet and being a good friend, and she's doing what any good friend would do, and she's calling out bad behavior from men. And like, how can you not see where Lala's coming from a good, genuine place? The key word there is place. And the thing that I took away the most from this episode, and I said this in my initial review of this episode on TikTok the other day, is the fact that there's a time and place to bring things up, to say certain things. And there's just a time and place for arguments and hills to die on. And I'm a person that likes to deal with context and nuance, and I like to challenge myself to have the discipline within myself to not tap into my subconscious, and have myself have an internal clock of when I'm going to be triggered by somebody's response or what somebody says to me. Like, it's a challenge for myself. I'm not a perfect person. I'm sure that I found myself in many situations where I said the wrong thing at the wrong time, kept arguments going when it needed to stop, found myself in a position where I needed to move on from something that hurt me or someone that hurt me. No, none of us is perfect. I want to make that perfectly clear. I think it's an opportunity, and one of the great things I enjoy about The Valley is these life lessons that I obtained by watching these type of shows, of stuff of what not to do and how to handle certain situations, especially when it comes to communication. And again, whether it's a friendship beef or a couples therapy session like we saw with Kristen and Luke, whether it's a relationship thing like we saw with Zack and Benji in the beginning of the episode, which I'm going to talk about in a few seconds, a lot of this comes down to communication, and you need to challenge yourself to make sure that you are listening and letting your partner know that you see them, you hear them for what they're saying, even if you don't disagree with what their perspective is of the situation. And I think that the fact that what's really preventing this friend group to move forward is that while Daniel has apologized on multiple times and has said on the record that he'll apologize as many times as Jasmine and Melissa will want him to do, the only people that have the right to continue on this drama or this whole situation, or in my opinion, the only people that have the right to speak up or feel the need that they want to have more conversations and more dialogue about the situation is Jasmine and Melissa, because those were the people that were affected in this whole situation. And the fact that this is whole turnaround where, in a lot of ways, when you watch the show, you think that Janet and Lala were mistreated by Daniel in a rude sexual manner, and that's not the case. And Janet has used words to describe Daniel that's very disrespectful, and I really try to give a lot of these cast members a lot of grace, and I'm not gonna come here and act like I'm a saint or anything like that. We're not perfect human beings. However, as I said earlier on the show today, I do not condone the way Daniel Bucco has carried himself this season. I haven't. Okay? I have not condoned anything that he's done this season, or more importantly, the way he spoke to his wife and does speak to his wife, sober or not sober. He has a lot to answer to at the reunion, and I hope this is a learning experience for him. Everything that I'm saying right now on this podcast, I'm 100% certain that Daniel's having these conversations within himself. I think he's a good human being. I think we've seen enough time now in these past 3 seasons that he's a good father. We saw a real bad patch and a real bad time period of Daniel and Nia's marriage. Marriage is not easy. You are listening to someone who's a product of divorce and seeing a very toxic marriage fracture. I had very, very young parents that tried their best and were not a good match for each other. I'm not the only person that's dealt with divorce. I think it's unfortunate that we are in a state of life where divorce is becoming so frequent now, where people kind of scoff at kids that say that they deal with trauma with divorce. I think that's unfortunate, because anybody that tells you, oh, divorce is not a big deal anymore like it was back in the day because everybody gets divorced these days. Yeah, the rate of divorce are on the uptick in 2026 and in general society. I get that. But also, speaking for somebody who is a product of divorce and has dealt with a lot of trauma and PTSD from said divorce, I don't think that I don't think it's cool that people have that perspective, because whether or not you think that it's not a big deal like it was back in the day, and just want to say like people should get over your parents get divorced because everybody gets divorced, I think that's a shitty mindset to go through, because yeah, my parents got divorced while I was in high school. It still hurts. Isabella, Jesse and Michelle got divorced. We saw what happened on the episode this week, and they made it official. Despite all the bad energy and fighting that happened amongst Jesse and Michelle the last 2 seasons, I know there's a lot of love there, but still, you cannot put a blind eye. No matter what the situation is, divorce is bad. It's going to have an effect on the kids. I'm sure it's going to affect crews down the road. It's going to affect a lot of people. Divorce is a real thing. And I think that, watching Jesse and Michelle have that very emotional conversation at Jesse's house, where Jesse finally signed the papers and made it official for their divorce. The music that they're sharing in the background, what they're saying each other, and Jesse reflecting on the fact that he has kept every memento thing for Isabella from his marriage with Michelle, so she could always look back at it down the road in her future if she wanted to. All that stuff, and then just everything amongst that. See, I'm not gonna lie, it got me very emotional. I felt a couple tears running down my eyes. I'm not gonna lie. I felt the love was there. Jesse even said in the confessional that at the end of the day, Isabella will always know that she was made out of love. Because that was the case, because Jesse and Michelle were in love. And no matter what's gone on, and, the terrible things that Jesse said towards Michelle on camera on last season's The Valley, and how Michelle carries herself in a two-faced manner and still talks shit about Jesse every chance she gets on the after show. And no matter wherever their dynamic is and their co-parenting where is that right now, I know behind all that resentment and everything is love. And I commend both of them for how they've handled the situation this season. Have I agreed with everything Michelle's done this season? I have not. I think Michelle has carried herself, like I said, in a very two-faced manner, and I don't like the immaturity that I've seen with her, with how she's handled certain situations. But when it comes to the situation and how raw and vulnerable and deeply emotional this whole situation is with making this divorce final with Jesse, it hits the heartstrings. It really is. And I commend her for how vulnerable and emotional she's got. Not only about that, but just reflecting on the fact that she lost her mother last year and the struggle she's been dealing with that as well. So I was watching that scene on Wednesday. I'm not gonna lie, it got me very emotional. It's just like, I'm a product of divorce, and you want the best for your kids. It's a shitty situation. I hate seeing that happen, but I think it hits home with one of the themes with this week's episodes. That there's a time and place for things, and at some point, certain relations reach a point of no return, and divorce is that option, and that's just what it is. So, it goes from there, and then you have Luke and Kristen, having a conversation at a couples therapy place called Motherhood LA. And Luke, in the middle of the conversation, said that out of frustration, being like, I didn't meet pregnant Kristen. I didn't know who pregnant Kristen was. He was saying that everything was fine until he met pregnant Kristen. And, Kristen had to take that on the chin in real time, and that's a zinger, right? And Kristen's like, I don't want you to backpedal, just like, I'm like, you say something and you immediately apologize for it. No, you got to keep that same energy. If that's how you feel, say it out with your chest. And I said it all season. I commend how honest and vulnerable Kristen and Luke have been with each other, and how much they've shared with us this season as somebody who covers the show and somebody who's a big admirer of both Kristen and Luke. I think they're great for each other. I think that, again, just like Danny and Nia, we are seeing that this is real life. Relationships are not easy. There's rough patches. And for myself, who doesn't have any kids, to see how communication gets really bad, you would think that Kristen and Luke would be on cloud nine after having their kid. But this whole season, they've been going at each other's throats. And you hate to see that. And there's just a consistent communication issue that's going on. I have empathy for women who struggle with postpartum. I'll never know what that's like. I'm a male. I don't have any kids. But watching what's been going on with Kristen and Luke this season, I've learned a lot about what not to do. And this is one of these examples. Like, I get it. We all have our limits of frustration where we feel like we're not being heard, and we feel like we're being constantly attacked even though we didn't do anything wrong. Trust me, I feel that to a certain extent. I dealt with that in my life before, where I feel like I've been used as a verbal punching bag or a scapegoat for something that I didn't do and wasn't responsible for. I felt that emotion before, trust me. And I felt that emotion of being misunderstood and having people talk shit behind your back without taking the opportunity to get to know you, or they'll like be nice to you, and then you find out on the other hand that they're still talking shit behind your back. I felt a lot of these emotions that were conveyed in this episode, like Nia coming back from her judging at one of the Miss USA competitions, and she said she's telling Daniel, like, it felt so good and freeing to be in a positive, uplifting environment. And we got to see her say, like, admitting, like, she feel like she can't be herself in this group. And she's even pointing out the fact that she realizes that Brittany's now talking shit behind her back. And for what? Because she sticks up for her husband? Because she, as a parent and as a partner, has the right to choose what she wants to share, doesn't want to share with the public? Who said that you need to show every dark thing in your marriage for that to be justifiable for reality television? This is a human being. I feel really bad for how the Bravo fans, the fans of the Valley itself, the way the cast this season has talked about Nia on the show, on the after show, in some of these interviews. And this whole thing, I've really tried this whole season to try to find the root and try to see things from like Janet and Lala's perspective. Even like Michelle will make snarky comments towards Nia too. And it's weird because occasionally you'll see like Michelle and Nia will get together for play dates with Isabella and Nia's daughters. But then again, you have Michelle talking shit behind her back too, and I don't get it. I generally don't. I don't know what Nia did to Michelle. Just because you don't like her partner doesn't mean that has to be a reflection of how you see her too. Not only that, the only time I've, I don't know, scratched my head or anything like that was certain things that Nia would say on the after show for last season of The Valley, where she would make comments about everybody else's relationship and stuff like that. And just like very like standoffish, especially when it came to the stuff about Jesse. And it's interesting because Nia would say that in the defense of Michelle, but here we are a season later. And do you ever see Michelle take up for Nia in any of these after shows? No. Because we got the ringleader, Lala. All right. We got Janet and Michelle who can't handle one-on-one conversations, and they can't handle conflict internally one-on-one. One, Janet runs away. And two, Michelle disassociates herself from conflict. So they can't say what they really want to say at certain times and have that one-on-one conversation. So they'll have Lala come in and do the dirty work for both of them. And that's what we've seen this whole season. And Lala, in a lot of cases, just does not have a leg to stand on in a lot of things that she's calling out Daniel for, or the way she talks to Jesse, talks down to Jesse. And like, she just does not have a leg to stand on. And then for her to talk shit about Nia because she's not going to back down to her, it's just like, I watched this season and you would think that Lala and Brittany are like, oh, guess what? Jax is out of the picture. Let's make Daniel the number one victim in the group. And guess what? His partner is Nia. She's from a pageant background. She used to train Rachel Leviss as a pageant competition. Nia was one of the people that helped Rachel during her pageant days. So guess what? We will look at the same lens at Rachel, and Lala thinks, oh, here's another beauty queen, Miss USA. And she thinks she could just walk all over her and talk shit about her and treat her the same way that she treated Raquel, and think that Nia's not going to do anything. And Lala thinks she's just going to walk all over her because I'm Lala fucking Kent and my shit don't stink. And Brittany's going to talk all the shit in the world about Nia. It was so funny, and I knew it was obvious because I wanted to give Brittany the doubt. And what's really sad about this is that Daniel Bucco has done himself no favors. We all know about Dark Side Danny, right? The issue here is that he exposes himself. Lala and Brittany and Michelle and Janet think like we need to confront Daniel more and more and more and more and more and drive it into the fucking ground while not realizing it that Daniel does it to himself. He gets himself in these situations. So while they want to bring down Kristen and Lala's trying to force Kristen this whole last 2 or 3 weeks of the Valley, trying to be like, I don't understand why you can't give Janet grace. I don't understand why you can't be friends with Janet. This is not the Kristen I know. And then even in the confessional this week, Lala's like, Kristen needs to realize like this is history, and you just threw your friend Nia under the bus, and Nia doesn't understand this is history, and we've been through the trenches with each other, and blah 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 blah. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, hold up. Before you joined this fucking show, not even a year and a half ago, you were on the outs with Kristen over the fact that you got upset because she didn't defend you because somebody was ripping you a new one at a panel conversation or something like that. Am I not mistaken about that? Like, Lala and Kristen were not speaking to each other at the time? But I'm supposed to believe, like, oh, Lala and Kristen had this deep bond with each other. All those times when Kristen would argue with James Kennedy and Lala when they're on Vanderpump Rules. I'm supposed to put a blind eye to that. Or the times Lala would make snarky comments towards Kristen just to make Stassi Schroeder feel better about herself in season 7 and season 8. Am I supposed to be blind here? Like, I hate the fact that I have to always do these VPR recalls to point out the hypocrisy and the things that come out of Lala Kent's mouth, but she does to herself too. And the real issue here, like I said, is that I feel that Lala and Brittany in a lot of ways, I don't know, it's just like, because they know the fact that Nia helped Rachel Leviss prepare for pageants back in the day, as this like some underhanded Sandoval thing where they need to attack everybody that's still associated with Scandival and stuff like that. Like, I don't get it. I don't know if that's the case, but it's also at the same point where like Lala and Brittany are unable to have a one-on-one conversation with Nia. Nobody in this cast has had a one-on-one conversation with Nia about this whole situation without somebody else sticking their nose while the conversation is going on. That includes Janet, because Janet didn't do it on her own accord. If you guys go back all the way to the early part of the season where we had Sosa's birthday party, and Lala thought it was a good idea to send Janet towards Nia's direction to see if they can mend their fences with each other at Sosa's party. There's a time and place for everything, and Lala is not great at reading the room. Again, time and place. There's a lot of other takeaways that I want to get into before we wrap up this edition of the Valley recap for episode 17. But as we usually do here on the SUR Files, what I like to do is share a piece of the Valley after show, so you hear from the cast itself. And a lot of what happened in this episode was a big argument that happened at Chili's, of all places. Now, mind you, I have been very critical of Janet this season, but I have shared my empathy and give her a lot of grace, and I give her a lot of credit for opening up about past trauma that she's dealt with in a very unfortunate situation that she dealt with back in the day. And I give Janet a lot of credit for being vulnerable enough to share that with the audience. And I think, especially in this episode, I there's things with her that I do connect with her. Like, I love Chili's. Who doesn't? Like, Chili's is fucking awesome, right? And I thought this was a good episode with Janet. And what's interesting is that there's been a couple times, right? We get these get-togethers where we had Lala's, like, they're celebrating Lala's 7-year sobriety journey, and Janet's cracking jokes with Zack and everything, and then Michelle brings something up so they can start arguing with each other again. So Michelle doesn't bring it up this time. It's Brittany who starts the arguing and the bitching with each other, because at the same time, Zack and Janet were having a good conversation with Chili's. Everything was going fine. Even Lacey was at this get together, for just like a group, happy hour session at Chili's. By the way, there has to be a level of toxicity for you to get into a fucking shouting match and an argument at Chili's. Like, what's wrong with you? So basically, Brittany's the one to stir up the drama if the pot's stirring, because, well, come on, Zack, you gotta know the way you've been treating Jasmine the entire time. It's not cool, Zack. And then Zack's like, all right, this conversation is gonna go in a very, very, very different direction. Like, we gotta tread lightly here. And then Brittany gets on her feels. Oh, see, I can't say anything. I'm not allowed to talk. I'm not allowed to have my opinions. Just like how she got very defensive after that San Diego trip, and they had brunch. It was Zack, Kristen, Lala, and Brittany. And again, what's the topic? Danny and Nia. And then Zack reveals that Brittany doesn't like Nia, and she got all defensive about it. But what did we see this whole episode? Where her and Lala corner Kristen after Brittany has this nice, very wholesome photo shoot after her mommy makeover, where she's feeling better about herself, and she's saying that in the first time in her life, while she's always been a people pleaser, she's putting herself first, and like all these great things, and even these cute scenes with Cruz, like the stuff with Cruz and him talking and being all super giddy and stuff. I loved that. That was so awesome. Like the conversation with Brittany and Janet had at Brittany's house. That was great. And then we get to this photo shoot where Kristen and Lala are there to uplift Brittany. This should be a great conversation. Then we have to talk about Nia again, because Schwartz reveals the conversation that he had with the guys before Danny's vasectomy on last week's episode of The Valley. And Schwartz is taking things out of context, saying that Luke and Danny are diminishing Janet's struggles from her past and what she revealed, basically. And then Kristen says that she doesn't lay guilt trips on Zack, has the reason why this episode is called Guilt Tripping. Kristen says that Nia guilt trips Zack. And then you see Brittany and Lala just, oh my God, just like you would think like they had this big revelation, like we're watching a scene out of Mean Girls. And like, I couldn't describe it any better. If you see just like a moment where you see Rachel McAdams and Amanda Seyfried, they find this big revelation over somebody that they don't like, right? Lindsay Lohan's character. They find something about their past that they're going to use against them, and see how giddy they are. That's Brittany and Lala when Kristen revealed that Nia guilt tripped Zack, right? For Kristen, that has defended Nia this whole season, I don't know why she did not say anything with the way Brittany especially was acting. Brittany has no leg to stand on. For how defensive she got towards Zack when he said that she doesn't like Brittany, she doesn't like Nia, and Brittany's like, when? Show me the evidence. When? And then, you guys remember before the Mexico trip, she's like, oh, you and Nia are not real friends. How many times you guys hang out with each other? It sucks. Like, I want to give Brady the benefit of the doubt. I know she dealt with a lot of horrible shit that nobody should ever go through with Jax, obviously, especially last season of The Valley. And then she carries herself like this too. It's just like, come on, man. All right, so I gave you the context of what without this whole Chili situation. Let's get to the Valley after show and hear from the cast itself.
I almost got married to someone I just met in Vegas, and I've grown up, obviously, since, like, how old was I? Oh, actually, I was pretty old when that happened.
Coming up on the Valley after show.
I feel like we're giving this guy a lot of grace, and I've gotten 0 grace from it.
How are we so easy to forgive the man in the situation, but we can't forgive Janet?
It is absolutely not the same.
If things do not improve from here, there's not going to be a wedding. But I would still stand by that.
Once we got pregnant, we should have been like, okay, well, what does this look like? And we didn't.
Whilst peeing, I relieved myself in a backwards manner.
Did Jason tell you about my chart?
Stop, Janet.
No, but feel free to tell us about your chart.
On the couch.
The Valley After Show starts right now.
Lala was like, wait, Janet. Like, what? And I'm like, here we go again. And then I shit my pants. Oh, All I had to do was pee. Well, whilst peeing, I relieved myself in a backwards manner.
So you shit your pants. You didn't chart.
I mean, I didn't full log it in my pants.
I'm offended. You were just ripping ass at the table? Oh, what?
Sharding happens. Luke sharks
No
sometimes.
Sharding is whenever you fart and a little poop comes out. Shitting your pants is like full-fledged, like you pooped.
And you pushed. You would have to push.
A shard is accidental.
It's way less messy.
I did shart. Ask our showrunner. He went in the bathroom after and was like, what happened?
Yeah, and he came
Not
out and
that
I was
there
like,
was
where
things
were
there,
you?
but it was very,
He
said,
was gone for so long. I was like, where the f were you? He's like, oh, I shit my pants.
Yeah, well, I told you later that night, because I was like, nothing, no reason.
I knew something happened.
Did you poop at Chili's?
I had to poop.
Same thing. Did you poop? Oh, my God.
I had to poop. So, yeah, it was a shart as I was peeing, and then, but I was able to contain it in my underwear.
You took
so it's
them
fine.
out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't get in the pants.
Chili's is like a really sacred place for me, and I'm glad he didn't tell me in my sacred place.
We're never going to be allowed back there. And I frequent that Chili's. It's like my go-to spot.
Oh, no.
It was probably his medication.
Yeah.
And Chili's, I'm sorry I shit in your bathroom. It was not your fault, so I apologize. It was my antibiotics.
Maybe it was the people he was with, you know?
It would make my stomach upset,
Yeah, it
too.
would make his stomach upset. He's like, oh, I don't want to be here. And then his body was like, I'll give you an excuse to leave.
Did Jason tell you about my chart?
No, but feel free to tell us about your chart.
Jason had to clean it up.
Stop, Janet.
In 2020, we went to Katie Maloney's house. I blame Katie. It's all Katie's fault. We went to Katie's for Friendsgiving. We all got COVID, even though we were very safe about it. Everyone took a COVID test before we went in, but somehow all of us got COVID. So after 5 days of quarantining at home alone, wearing gross sweatpants and stuff, and I decided the last day while I was feeling better, I was gonna put on these silk cute pajamas. And Jason and I were eating this mushroom chicken and veggies I made. I thought I was gonna let out a cute little boop fart, like quick little cutie one.
There's no cute parts, by the way.
Boop. And instead of a boop, I felt hot lava in my pants. If you think it's a fart, that's a shart. That's the whole premise of it. So hot lava, and because I was wearing these cute silk pajamas, it just went right through.
He married you after this?
I know. That's true love.
We all poop.
Dude, no.
And Jason, when I was getting up, was like, did you spill? He thought it was the sauce from the chicken. And I was like, no, I sharted. And he was like, oh. And then I went and I showered. I think I actually called Kristen from the bathroom. This is when we were very close. And I was like, it's over for Jason and I. He's definitely going to leave me now. I pooped on the couch. This is how you know it's true love. He was like, I used club soda to clean it up off the couch. He's like, do you think that that's the right thing? And I was like, you cleaned my poop?
What a great guy.
Oh, I thought another ick. You know, when it usually as a dude, you put the toilet up to pee. Sometimes when it's just spackled with poop spray. I know it's kind of gross.
When if you're dating a girl and you go to her bathroom and there's poop spray on there, then you think about her butt, not in a sexy way, maybe for that momentarily. But I would get over that ick very quickly.
I would clean it for her. I would clean it for her. Would you tell her?
No, I would clean it.
I would clean it and tell her, yo, just so you know, I'm not trying to make you feel bad, because this happens to everyone, but you had a lot of poop.
Oh, I wouldn't say anything. I would clean it and not tell her, and then this way that if she ever looks at it, she's not thinking that I saw it, and I would just be a secret.
He did a great job. Got off the couch, same couch you see these days.
I'm never sitting on that couch ever again.
It infuriates me when they keep saying, why can't you forgive Janet when you already have forgiven Danny? I picked up Danny from his vasectomy. We had a conversation about it where I was like, dude, you were very hyped that night, but I do feel like he is slowly realizing some of this stuff.
I feel like we're giving this guy a lot of grace, and it's hard selfishly for me to watch this because I made a mistake last year. I said words I shouldn't have said, and I've gotten zero grace from it.
I don't get it. I don't know. I don't know why Zach's defending Danny so hard. I don't get why.
Don't ask me. I didn't know what was happening.
I feel like Janet has been trying to change, and it's obvious, I think, and apologizing and really trying to, like, understand people more and think before she speaks. And, you know, she's not perfect. None of us are. So she's definitely trying that. But how are we so easy to forgive the man in the situation, but we can't forgive Janet?
It's not the same. It is absolutely not the same. Number one, for me specifically, Danny has not done anything to me for me to forgive. It's my friend, and then if she forgives him...
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
So I think we're good. I'm just happy we got that out, you know?
Okay, great. Then that's, you know, whatever.
When it comes to Zach, I sometimes worry that maybe he's lived in the comment section. Where he wants to be liked, because it doesn't make any sense.
Also talking about, like, Lala, like, I forgive Lala for stuff that she's said to me about me in the past or done, and then we move forward. That's because Lala and I had such a genuine conversation where she took responsibility without saying but, and she was like, I didn't know I affected you that way. I didn't know this. I didn't know. Yeah. I'm so sorry. Like, you know, blah, blah. That is how you move on and have an apology. Janet wants to say, well, I don't feel this way, but I maybe blah, blah. No, girl. And she won't take any responsibility. And then she's lying in her apology.
She knows what she did wrong. She's admitting that. You're acting like you're okay with her one moment, and then you're still mad the next. So it's like, what else can she do at this point?
I'm glad Zach and Danny are such good friends. I hope Danny has Zach's back as much as Zach has Danny's.
I mean, I love Benji, and obviously I love Zach, so I think they were great together.
I think they balance each other out.
I feel like Zach could not be with another Zach.
Yeah, and the way Benji looks at Zach is so cute.
Yeah.
They seem pretty endgame to me.
I can see it being endgame. I can also see it not being endgame.
I think they have a lot to work out in their future.
I'm not one of those people to jump into things. I know, that's such a lie. There was one time where I almost got married to someone I had just met in Vegas, but luckily that did not happen. And I've grown up, obviously, since, like, I don't know, how old was I? Oh, actually, I was pretty old when that happened. But I want him to be as happy for the rest of his life as I want myself to be. We are going to give each other the grace and the space to talk out these really life-changing but hard decisions that you make during your life.
I do want to start the process of surrogacy.
Well, I think I need just a year to fully make the decision.
You need to do some soul searching. I really want kids.
I just want to make sure we're on the same page. Because even like Kristen and Luke, they have said they've had like the conversations about where they want to live, how they want to raise the kid. But I'm like, have they? Like, I don't know. So it's like, that's why we have to really have those conversations. And I think maybe sometimes we put them off a little because I don't want it to ever not be in game.
Mm-hmm. He would be a great dad. It's no question about that. It's just, does he want to be a dad?
Yeah. You, Kristen, Brittany, everybody, they were like, you hate children. Yeah. And I'm like, wait. And it's not that I don't want kids. It's like, I never thought about children because I've been in survival mode. And I don't want to bring a child into that. And I don't have my family here in LA. So it would be a much different situation raising a child. And also, like, I can't just get somebody pregnant. And I'd never had a partner that wanted them. So it kind of was like out of sight, out of mind, didn't think about it.
That's exactly
I'm not going to lie. I will still make fun of children, even if I have one. I will be like, wow, you are a burden on my life, and like put it, you know what I mean? That is my humor, and that's, you know, whatever.
I could talk to him about that because I'm not a kid guy generally, but it's different when it's your own kid.
Totally.
It just is. Actually, almost makes me want to cry just thinking about Zack having a kid because I feel like any, you know, thoughts he has about children would just be gone, and he'd love that kid so much.
It's really crazy. Benji has changed a lot of the way I see things. I don't think I ever even thought maybe there was a possibility for a full-on, like, long-term relationship until I met him, because I was like, it takes a very special person to be able to love me 24/7, or at least, you know, 26. There's no other person that I've ever dated that I was like, oh, that person could actually, like, I don't know, raise a child.
Yeah.
So it's different. It's crazy to think that I'm like, oh, wow, I could have a kid.
I know.
We've talked about, like, whose sperm it would be, or who, like, he doesn't care and I don't care either, so I guess we'll toss up who does it. Also, like, I feel like there's so many kids that could be adopted that would also be, you know, environmentally friendly and... And, like, let's go with that. So I could adopt, and I would be fine with it.
All right. That's the cast right there for the Valley after show. I want to talk about that really quick with Zack and Benji. They had a conversation at Magoo Cafe Magoo in LA. And, you know, Benji revealing that it's a non-negotiable for him for having kids. And, I didn't know his visa issues were still a problem. Like, I know they addressed it a little bit in last season of the Valley. Remember, Zack had to drive all like to LAX to go pick up Benji, and they had the get-together party at Jesse's house. It just sucks, you know, for Zack and Benji that it's got to this point, and it's like, well, but then because you don't know if they'll take the next steps to be serious with each other. Obviously, you can tell that, and you hear it in the clip there, that Zack and Benji do care about each other and they're a good couple. It's just that these visa issues are a real problem, and I hope Benji finds a solution to this. You know, obviously, this was recorded 8-9 months ago, so who knows where they're at now and things like that. But you can tell that Zack and Benji really care for each other, and I hope they figure that out. I want to try to remember if I forgot anything specifically, because, like I said, this whole episode was just a case and prime example of learning of that there's a time and place to say things and when not to say things. And that's really the big vibe that I had for this episode of The Valley. Like, it's called guilt tripping, but it's just like, read the room, more importantly. And, so I addressed the conversation at the photo shoot that Brittany and Lala had with Kristen. And then there's the other one that was closing the episode of The Valley where Lala and Kristen are at Kristen's house. And again, this is just like, why? Why does it have to be Lala to force Kristen to move things over with Janet? Why isn't Janet having this conversation with Kristen at Kristen's house? That's where the issue is. Stop trying to act like you're some prosecutor or spokesperson. How this moves forward is Janet forgiving herself, even if she feels like she's not wrong with the situation, and also for Kristen too to forgive herself. Because trust me, I've been burnt by people in my life that I thought that I would never speak to again, and I, you know, hold that grudge and dealt with spite and felt that bitterness and everything in between. And the only way I was able to move on with my life was to forgive myself. It's a sucky thing to do, especially with somebody who's prideful like myself. And even to a certain extent, I think Kristen, in her way, she admits herself that she's very prideful and that she stands up for what she believes in and things like that. And even for herself, she feels like she doesn't have anything to apologize for. And I think she even said it to Lala too. Like, I don't feel like I need to be forced to be friends with anybody if they're not serving a positive purpose in my life, you know? And I agree with her. I agree with everything she says there. And you look at that whole scene as a whole, I just think that Lala was just not reading the room in the situation. She's just like, Kristen, I don't understand. This is not Kristen. And then Brittany earlier in the episode, like, this is not my Zack from Kentucky anymore. Well, guess what? We all have this conversation about Dark Side Danny. Well, we got the reveal of Dark Side Brittany this season. How about that? We already know there's Dark Side Lala. We all know that. So, like, you're watching the end of this episode, and Lala's like, oh, Kristen, you would have a totally different perspective if you heard the story that Janet went through. And I thought this is the most mature thing that anybody said on this episode about this whole situation. And she said in the confessional, you can have empathy for somebody that went through something that no woman should ever go through. Male or female. Nobody should deal with that type of abuse. Nobody. And I said this before, sexual abuse, domestic violence, whatever the situation is, people who engage in that manner are fucking cowards and cunts. It's just that simple. I can have empathy for that situation, but I don't have to be your friend either, too, at the same time. She's not being cold. She's not being callous. She's not diminishing what Janet went through. They're not in a good place. So to expect, and I feel in a way, more than anything, Lala was trying to guilt trip Kristen to feel bad for Janet, if we're being honest. So, and then they ended up like mocking Schwartz in a way for misleading the context of the conversation and stuff like that. Well, another thing for Lala that I did not like on this episode was the fact that she was making fun of Lacey because Brittany's like, well, Lacey was there with us with Michelle and Janet, and Lacey didn't have a problem. And Kristen's like, well, I just got off the phone with Lacey, and she's on the verge of having a meltdown because she didn't want to be by Janet. So, and then Lala is starting to make fun of her. Like, Lala, just grow the fuck up already. Like, seriously, grow the fuck up. You're going to mock a girl like that? That's done absolutely nothing to you? Like, give me a break. Anyways, we're going to put a rim in the bow on this week's edition of the SUR Files. This was episode 19. I just finished recapping episode 17 of The Valley Season 3 titled Guilt Tripping. Next week is the season finale of Season 3 of The Valley. And then we'll get to the 3-part reunion. So a lot of things to look forward to. Make sure to follow along with our TikTok page as I share more videos throughout the weekend. And you can check us out at SUR Files as we're on the road to we're on the road to 100,000 followers on SUR Files on TikTok, and let's shoot for maybe 5 million likes on SUR Files as well. That'd be pretty dope as well. So those are the next big steps for the channel itself. But on the podcast end, again, just appreciate the support. New episodes of the SUR Files drop each and every single Friday, anywhere you get your podcasts from. And don't forget to check us out and subscribe and hit that like button on YouTube as we're on the road to 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. And folks, you hit me up on social media. I'm at X at the Hoots Podcast, Instagram, Joshie Lopez Music. And on that note, folks, be the authentic product that is yourself. Remember, nobody dictates the pace you let but yourself and the man upstairs. And just remember this: what happens in the valley doesn't stay in the valley. It ends up in the SUR Files. I'm Joshie. This has been episode 19. We'll be back for episode 20. Love y'all. Have a great weekend, guys. Talk to you later. Peace.